How are we doing, everyone? This is Bob Gums bringing you the Concerned Forum. I hope you folks have had a good day out there so far. Um, Tell me something. What do you think about people that don't wish to stand up and take responsibility or be held accountable for the things that they do? Tell you why I bring this up. This so called gentleman, Trump, well, unless you've been living beneath a rock somewhere on Mars, you know this guy has been found guilty. All right? Now, all we have heard from him and the Republicans since the verdict came down was a whole lot of whining and crying, but yet you don't hear the magic word. What's that magic word? Innocent. In other words, folks, you don't hear anybody talking on the Trump side of the fence talking about, well, he didn't do it, blah, 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 blah. You don't hear that. You hear all this nonsense. Oh, well, it's a witch hunt. They're persecuting him. But you don't hear that word innocent. Well, that's the first thing. Another thing that bothers me. Now, this guy Trump says, well, if they can do it to me, they can do it to you. Well, the reason that they are doing it to you, Donald, is because you are a rotten, draft dodging, lying cheat that broke the law. So, yeah, the same way they had to track down Al Capone, that's the same thing they have to do with you because you're guilty. And a jury of your fellow citizens told you that. Yes, we find you guilty. But you know, this is what really pisses me off about double standards that we seem to have developed in this country here lately. Crying and crying and crying. Oh, Biden's out to get me. Well, come on. Which is it? First, you say that Joe Biden is so old and senile, he can't put his underwear on correctly. Then, in almost the same breath, you turn around and you say, well, Biden, he's the head, he's a criminal mastermind of the Biden gang. And I wonder if Trump and his Republican minions, do they realize how asinine they sound? You know, I can't believe in the incredible waste. I mean, all these people went to college. Some of them went to damn Ivy League schools. And it seems like it was a total waste because you get no logic. And that's one thing they do teach you in university, logic, how to, think, not what to think, as the Republicans claim, but how to think, how to look for evidence, proof. And you have these Republicans just blathering. And I really hold these people in such contempt. And I'll be quite frank about it. I think that the Republican Party of 2024 is nothing but a cult, all right? Made up of a lot of contemptible people who really hate America. And people need to start standing up saying that. You know, it's pretty hard to be a old senile bungling buffoon on the one hand and be a criminal mastermind. Those two things usually don't go together. But since we see Joe Biden doing all the work of a president, and he seems to be doing it quite well. I'll put it to you like this. Uh, when Biden goes to Europe, you don't see people laughing in his face. We see that. We saw that with Donald Trump. Okay? America, we don't live on this planet by ourselves. We have to share the globe with, I don't know, a whole bunch of other countries. And for America to prosper and make progress in this world, I think it would be a good idea that we have the respect of other nations. I'm not saying that we have to go out and make people love us, but I am saying that you want your leaders to be respected. If I'm that 18, 19-year-old in, in an armored cab outfit somewhere in the Middle East, I want to know that my commander in chief is not the laughing stock for the entire planet. And as you see with Trump, everybody laughs at this guy because he's a buffoon. He's a very bitter buffoon. And I guess that's what makes it all the worse. He wanted to make history. Well, he did. First person, first president in American history to be a felon, a convicted felon. And folks, if this is the kind of person that you want sitting at the head table, I mean, that's on you. People are free to think what they want to think, at least for now. But please don't bore us to death with your flag waving and your patriotic bullshit. Always remember what Ben Franklin said. Patriotism is the last refuge for the scoundrel. And my God, the man, he must have been able, like Nostradamus, to see in the future. Because a lot of his sayings, I mean, it's like he saw Trump coming, right? So, yes, Donald Trump is a convicted felon. Now, the next question comes up. What are they going to do with him? I mean, lock him up? It's it's ironic. Trump is, he's always out there yelling, lock her up, lock him up. Well, hey, I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I think 30 days in the hole might do him some good. No, I don't think anything could do Trump any good. But I think it would do a hell of a lot for our constitutional government that we used to pride ourselves so much on in this country. But now, almost half of the Supreme Court, they're nothing but flunkies for the ultra right wing. So, who knows? But I'm going to tell you one thing, seriously, that's really pissing me off. I mean, for real, like Trump and these Republicans. My question is, who in the hell do these bastards think they are? Who in the hell do they think they're talking to? I am damn sick and tired of these clowns making all of these threats towards the American people. If I don't win the election, blood will flow. Um, if they don't do this, blood will flow. If I have to go to jail, blood will flow. You know, that to me is the raving of a punk. Okay, that's what we call it in inner city America. You know, you're gonna flap, keep flapping your beak. Don't do that. See, now we come into the part now where I'm going to talk real slow because I'm going to attempt, I should say, I'm going to attempt to carefully pick my words because Donald, he has really opened the door, which I don't think most sane Americans want us to go through. This boy has been constantly threatening us. Like I said, if you don't, if I lose the election, it wasn't fair, and blood will, flow in the streets. What the hell kind of bullshit is that? So if I win, it was good. It was a fair election. But if I lose, it wasn't a fair election. And what I see is if Trump loses, which I hope he does, but say he loses, I imagine he's going to start sending his thugs to different cities: L.A., Chicago, Milwaukee, New York, Philly, etc. Probably Atlanta. And I can see him sending his people out to attack, especially people of color. And my advice to the elected officials in these cities is get your people prepared. No, do not contemplate any type of violence. But what I will say is be prepared to defend yourselves. Because, you got to remember now, this is not just a threat against black people. Now, I know the FBI busted a guy, what was it, yesterday or the day before, in Arizona. Had, the weapons cache and what have you, right? And his thing was he wanted to kill black people to instigate a race war. So, what I'm telling black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Jewish Americans, women, right? If they think that you are pro choice, there's a good possibility that um, a women's clinic, for example, some place like that, right? Or a, what is it called? A trans people's counseling center, or an LGBT uh, community, right? Or gathering place. Listen, you have to remember during the Clinton administration, was it Clinton administration? Oh God, what's the name of that guy? What was his name? And I'm ashamed to say he was a veteran, but because I don't think I had been out of the service that long when they did that horrendous bombing at Oklahoma City. 150 people died, were just blown up. And I think I think about 50 of them were children. So I know what I'm saying right now. It's not pleasant, but it's not me talking, talking through my rear end. Okay, uh, these type of things have happened. And when was it? I think he was while he was president. One incident stands out in particular because he was trying to say, not trying to say, he was saying his Hispanics, people coming across the border, were invaders. Did he say something about invading roaches? Some terribly disgusting thing. And a short time after he said that, he made that statement, a short time after that, this lunatic goes, I think it was the border, one of the border cities along the Mexican border. Was it Juarez? I can't remember. But he just started shooting up Mexican Americans. These people were Americans of Mexican descent, but they were Americans. And this guy just went on a shooting spree. So you have to ask yourself, those of you who still have some brain cells left, you have to ask yourself, is this the type of man or woman that you want to see occupying the White House? A type of man that instigates violence against people that he doesn't like or people who he feels have opinions different from his. But that's one of the questions that you have to ask yourself. This is something that you are going to live with for the rest of your days. Because nobody can stand up by the time we get into October, because the election is what, November 3rd. So by the time we get into October, I don't think no sane American can say, oh, well, I just didn't know. You do know. You do know. The man has told you what's on his mind. You need to pay attention, number one. And number two, you need to ask yourself, what kind of American are you? What kind of human being are you? If you are fortunate enough, right? If we are all fortunate enough to live through this period in time, then someday you're going to have a granddaughter or a grandniece, and they're going to ask you, why did you vote for this guy Trump, knowing what he is? Because maybe you felt that you were badly used because you had to pay an extra 5 cents for gas or something like that. So that was worth tearing the United States Constitution to shreds. I mean, hey, it's going to be on you. They're going to be asking you, right? And for you guys out there and gals who are veterans, I don't think there are as many veteran Trump supporters as it was back in 2016. But I would ask you, remember that day when you took your first oath of allegiance in front of the flag, and you're standing there with your hand up, your right hand up, and you're like, what, somewhere between 17 and 20? Or if you're an ROTC type and you're in college and you're trying to get that commission, so you might be 21 or 22. But remember that first time you took the oath to our country. I don't know if anybody explained it to you at the time, but when you take the oath as an American fighting person, you are doing something which is, it's different. to most countries in this world. See, that's the funny thing. The right wingers, conservatives, they have it right on this score, and probably the only thing that they have right about this whole situation called America is that we are a unique country. We are unique because we told the world, "Hey, come on over," right? Jews, Italians, Irish, English, German, Polish, Spanish, Nigeria. We don't care. The only thing that we ask when you take this oath, right, to serve in our military, you remember that you are swearing to the Constitution, not even to the flag. See, let's get it straight. In America, we take an oath of loyalty to the Constitution, to our Constitution. We don't take it to a man or a woman. We take it to our main document, the Constitution. The Nazis, right? What did they do when they took over Germany? One of the first things they did, they grabbed the military, right? They grabbed the army. And who did they take their oath to? To the fatherland? No. They took their oath to Adolf Hitler, a man. We don't do that in America. And it seems that too many of our people have forgotten that, right? There is no blood oath, no mama land, no papa land. It's just you and the Constitution. I heard somebody yell the other week. I was downtown. I think, right above going into the subway, and somebody bumped somebody else. You know how New Yorkers are. And the guy made a crack. Said, "Yeah, look at this," because I think the person he bumped into was, I think, Islamic. I'm not sure, but he yells out this crud. Ah, any damn buddy can come in this country now. Any damn buddy can be an American. And I'm walking in the opposite direction. I turned around and said, "Yeah, that's right," because it is right. The only thing that we require of you, anyone, is that you obey the Constitution. That paper that good men and women have given their lives for. That's why my man, what's his name, Comey, used to be the FBI guy until Trump fired him. He says he knew he was in trouble when Trump started talking all this yin yang about, I want loyalty. And he knew he was in trouble. He knew the country was in trouble. You got to ask yourself, we got two candidates, and somebody made a comment, well, both of these guys are for the birds. Well, he's entitled to his opinion. But come November 3rd, one of those guys is going to be president. Now, you can be childish and just pout your mouth, stamp your feet, cross your arms, or you can put your hands over your ears and say, well, I'm not going to participate. I'm not going for either one of these guys. You can do that. You be childish as hell, but you can do that. The Republicans haven't taken over yet. So, you can still do what you want. But I would ask you, who would you prefer? A guy that's old? I mean, I'm not going to, I'm not going to kibitz or try and get around it. The man's old. God bless him. But hell, we're all getting old, right? You're older right now than you were 12 months at the same date last year. We're all getting old. But you have to ask yourself, what's better for you? What's better for your kids, your friends? What's better for this country? A guy that's getting old and maybe he misses a step every so often. But he has the respect of people around the world. You know that this guy can be trusted. You know that he would not betray the country. You know that he wouldn't have people work for him and then not pay them. You know the man can be trusted. And then you got the other guy who, clinically speaking, he what, 78 now? He's just about as old as Joe. Right? They're in the same neighborhood. Old age, right? This guy, Donald, he's been a thief, right? He has lied, what is it, something like 30,000 times in the 4 years he was in the White House. Now that's really something, right? You have a job for 4 years, and they got you as lying for over 30,000 times. I mean, that's a bit much, okay? No one trusts Donald, not in their right mind. So, yeah, you have a lot of people that are caught up in this cult thing. And on top of that, you talk about character. Well, come on. I'm not going to hammer a guy because him and his wife have problems. But that doesn't appear to be the case with Donald. Donald just felt like, I don't know, women are something to be used. And see, that's something else that really bothers me about Americans nowadays. You heard the man out of his own mouth tell you what kind of person he is, what kind of man he is. He says, I like to walk up to strange women and grab their private parts. He thinks that's a gas. He thinks it's funny. He thinks it's cool. So how would you like it if your wife or your daughter came home and said, oh, yeah, we bumped into Donald Trump today. And he grabbed my vagina and tried to stick his tongue in my ear. Well, wait a minute. Did you know this son of a bitch? No, I've never met. This is the first time I ever met Trump in person. That's Donald. He told you. You heard with your own ears. This is the kind of man I am. And this is what I think of women. I think so little of women that they are just something I can just get my rocks off and walk away. And I don't even know them. That's what you want sitting in the White House. Think about it. Break it down. Stop thinking, you know, this is not selecting a chief executive. It ain't sex, okay? You need to start using your logic, your rational logic. Yeah, I know, I know. People, when it comes to politics, people, they don't want to be logical. They just, well, how they feel. Yeah, I get that. But there are times when you have to put that aside. If you saw the same person, if you saw Trump out there in the street and he pulled a gun on your 6 year old, what would you do? Would you just stand there and applaud? Or would you run over there, grab the gun from his hand, and try and break his damn neck? I, you know, I'm praying for the sanity of my country. Listen, we got a lot of problems. All right, we're human. When you got humans, you're gonna have problems. But this is going way across the red line. And the tragedy is good men and women died to give us the government that we have. And you're going to throw away, oh, well, I want to stick it to the libs. You damn fool. Don't you realize if you put that clown in office, you're not sticking it to the libs. You are sticking it to yourself. If you are not part of the 1%, the only person that's going to get stuck is you or your kids or your grandkids. I don't, how how do I get across to people that voting out of hate, the only person that gets really hurt is you, okay? And as far as, oh, well, he's got black folks and Hispanic folks coming to, no, I think you have a minority, a small minority of very mixed up people, and some of it is kind of self hatred, like that boy down there in Florida. Oh God, what is that kid's name? Oh, what is that? Yeah, what's his name? Brian Donald. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that boy is pathetic. He truly is. And see, people like that, right? When you think about as a black American man, you think about all the people in our community that, here we go again, gave their lives, their careers, to try and basically give black folks an opportunity to to be treated as just a regular American citizen. And this little fool comes up and says, "Oh, well, Jim Crow wasn't that bad because we talk about the black family." And I'm trying to figure out what the hell does that have to do with anything? Would you say to Jewish people, "Oh, well, Hitler was cool because he brought the Jews together"? Why do you think that black people are so stupid or were so stupid that we needed Jim Crow? We needed lynching. to bring us together or keep us together as a family. That is not an example of keeping a family together. That's an example of terrorizing families. So, in this young boy's, I don't know, his mental calculus, what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was good for the black community. What happened in L.A. was good for the black community. What happened in Texas, all over the damn place, was good for the black community. What happened in Florida, what was it, Rosewood, and a whole bunch of other places in Florida. That was supposed to be good for the black community. And being looked upon as an inferior creature, that was good for the black community? That was good for the black family? I don't think so. And I pity him, as angry as I am with his ignorance. He's only what, 30 some odd years old. You know, and he's an example of what I talk about when I say that a lot of our people, I'm talking about black folks now, they're not educated about themselves. Uh, Congressman Donald, let me tell you something. One of the reasons, and I noticed this a lot in the latter part of the 80s, going into the 90s, a lot, how should I say it? People really, they tried not to talk about civil rights, okay, or the civil rights movement. You know, it's like, I'm trying to remember some of the discussions I had when I was still in the Navy, as a matter of fact. And I would listen to these guys, right? I must admit, some of whom were a few years younger than me. And I was like, damn it, didn't your parents ever teach you anything? You know, you ever read any books? Watch some movies? I mean, it's ridiculous. You know what lynching is? Especially this guy comes out of Florida. Florida was the place where they almost killed Jackie Robinson. They were going to kill him. They had to get him out of town because of the fact that he was breaking the cover line in Major League Baseball. Oh yeah, watch the freaking movie. You're telling me that was good for the black family? When you have a situation where people are saying you can't do what I do because of the color of your skin, Mr. Donald, that's not healthy. Okay? That is not healthy and conducive uh, to a sane environment. It's not conducive to a good, solid family structure. I don't care how many people, well, my mama had me when she was, 13, and there were 12 of us, and there was no daddy, you know, but yet she raised us all, and we all have college degrees. Listen, my friend, that's not sane, okay? The college degree, yeah, that's cool. But the danger, the physical danger and the psychological dangers that we dealt with as a race, that's not good. It's not right. See? And one of the things that really helped with the big burgeoning modern civil rights movement was a justice on the Supreme Court named, I think, who was his name? Hugo Black. And this guy had been with the Ku Klux Klan in his younger years. As he says, it was for political reasons. But everybody was expecting him to be a real race bather. But unfortunately, for the right wing in this country, just the opposite happened. And one of his famous lines was when it was one of those cases where black people were being mistreated, and he would say, "Hey, man, you just can't do that to people." Now, Mr. Donald says that that was a good thing, that those were the good old days. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that. One thing I will say, um, in terms of this whole civil rights thing in this country, you have to remember black people built this country to a very large extent. You ever see a country with no money? It's called poverty, right? The reason the United States didn't suffer from that was because we made America a going concern. Tobacco, cotton, rice, indigo, right? All that stuff that these planters here would sell to Europe, okay? The ships that carried the cargo that came out of New England, right? Great seafaring area. That's why I say, oh, and let's not forget the cotton mills, America's first taste of the Industrial Revolution, right? They used to be all over, like Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, because of slavery. Because black slaves were the ones that picked the cotton, that got shipped up to New England, that got turned into cloth, right? The railroads. Well, the Chinese and the Irish, uh, for the most part, built most of the damn railroad. But where do you think that money came from, right? How do you think these guys were able to invest in the steel, the iron, right? All that good stuff. How do you think that happened? Oh, well, I'm gonna build a transcontinental railroad. Okay, Joe, you go over there and you do that. Well, it was a government and private sector um, it was a government and private sector way to get the linking of America through the railroad. Now, how would Joe's company be able to come to the aid of Lincoln? Because Lincoln was the one that started it off. He didn't live to see it completed, unfortunately. But yeah, that was Lincoln's dream. They have the United States hooked together from sea to sea, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And like I say, that was able to be done by the government and the private sector working together. Well, where do you think the private sector had that kind of money for investment, right? All this stuff, the telegraph, the railroads, steamship lines. Where do you think that money came from? It came out of slavery. Am I saying that black folks, they everything that was done in America, black people were responsible for? No. But what I'm saying is predominantly, right? Most of that stuff, because you got to remember, black people had built most of this stuff before we really started having the large immigration of the turn of the last century, the 1880s, 1890s, 1910, right? The immigrants from Russia and Poland and Germany and Spain and Italy and England and Ireland. When they came over here, they came to a growing concern. See? And the reason for that is because slavery had built this country up. Right? That's why for a while you didn't know if New York City was going to stay in the Union when the southern states began to succeed because they had made so much money. And the insurance business, right? And Wall Street. So I guess maybe that's why there have been times when, especially with some of my Caucasian brethren, I was looked upon as arrogant. It wasn't arrogance, but it was self knowledge, because I'm not the, we African people, African American people, we are not somebody's stepchild. America would never have grown to be the world power that she is today if it wasn't for black slavery in this country. And some of us might not like to hear it. Open your history books. Now, you have some people say, "Oh, these, some of these black leaders, they want, what was it, reparations and all this good stuff." No, I don't. It depends on what you mean by reparations. You want to give every black person $1 million or something? Hey, that might be cool. No, I'm just kidding. Don't fly off the handle. It was just a joke, right? But I think the type of reparations that we need in this country, we need for people to learn history. And I'm not just saying that everybody should learn Black American history. Uh-uh. Number one, there's really no such thing as Black American history. It's American history. And people need to learn that. Also, people need to learn their own history. Okay? Who they were, where they came from. And yes, it is important. Like a wise man once said, how the hell do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And we need that badly. We truly do. And I wonder sometimes about the way we look at things here. And the sad thing is, and I repeat, you have people in this country that want to kill other people for disagreeing with number one. And number two, you are going to let a guy like Donald Trump, he is not worth destroying America. I'm sorry. I am truly sorry, but he's not worth it. And I remember the last 4 years we had that guy. It was a constant war every day. The guy constantly stealing from the American people. His fancy, his hotel in D.C., which he was never supposed to have. His son-in-law, supposedly working for the United States government, gets $2 billion from Saudi Arabia for the work he did. What work? He was working for us. He wasn't working for you, King of Saudi Arabia. He was working for the United States of America. So how does he rate you giving him $2 billion? And then you're going to talk about the Joe Biden crime family? Come on, man. And this crap of Hunter Biden. I don't even see why the hell that's in the news every day. If his name was Joe Williams, it wouldn't be on the damn news every day. This is ridiculous. The poor guy, he's been through a lot, right? The way he lost his mother, and I believe his, his sisters, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that has a tendency to affect people. But you know, it's funny because he still went and served his country, Trump. When did you ever serve America? You know, this is what really bugs me about people. You're going to try and convince America that somehow Trump is a better choice for president? Come on, man. You know, the guy's a thief. Remember Trump University? He's a flim flam person. You know, it's sad. It's sad to see what hate for immigrants. Ah, those damn Mexicans. Ah, those damn blacks. You know, those damn women with their choice. Those gay people. Who the hell do they think they are? And don't talk about trans because they'll have a freaking heart attack. I mean, to have that much hate, I don't understand it. And you know what? I hope I never do. You're going to put in a guy that's a known, he is a convicted felon. The guy has a rap sheet as long as your arm. Trump University, please. But as I said, one of the problems on my side of the fence is that Democrats are too damn polite. If somebody were to ask me right now, what is the problem with the Democratic Party, I would tell them they are too damn polite. It's okay, it's right to obey the laws and to do things legally. But you don't have to be, you don't have to bend over backwards to be polite. That's wrong. That's wrong. Because sometimes that can give the impression of weakness. Now, I'm glad to see that you have some Democrats on the Hill that have really started to grow a pair. Male and female. Yeah, I said it. And I'm glad to see it. I think AOC is wonderful. Um, Obama, Obama's a good man, but the problem I have with him is that now we're trying to replicate what he did in '08. And what we should have done, what the Democratic Party should have done, is we should have basically built a movement out of that. See, um, I think we still have time to do that now, but I think it would have been a lot easier if we had kept up the momentum. And some of this goes back to that same problem, money in politics. Okay? Mostly what they do here in the United States, if you are a representative in Germany or Britain or France, they would call that bribery. See, but that's something else that we need to work on. And I have news also. Now, people who claim that they're on the, well, I support the Palestinians cause and all that good stuff. Well, I tell you something. Their cause, not all of it, just like Israel. Both of those causes are good causes. We have to acknowledge the fact that bad, serious mistakes were made on both sides. But right now, it's not worth killing children for. It's not. It isn't. I think Israel's problem with the settlers is something that they're going to have to deal with. because you cannot constantly keep pushing people off of their land and expect to how should I say it, maintain some type of peaceful environment. It ain't going to happen. You can't wipe out Hamas. It's an idea, right? Any more than you can wipe out Judaism or Christianity. Saying something about myself, I believe in the Creator. I believe in God, but I really have a very low tolerance for organized religion. See, my thing is the Creator. All right, religion is man-made, and I don't, it's not worth going to war over. It's not worth killing children for. Israeli children or Muslim children. And when you get to the point in your life where the death of a child doesn't move you, you got problems. you know, in here, you have some serious problems. My idea, I think you need to have an immediate ceasefire and you need to have a roundtable. Everybody who has skin in that game, and that's a Jewish, Muslim, Christian area, and they need to get around a big table and intelligently work this out. And see, something else that bothers me about Netanyahu, I always mispronounce his name, Bibi, as they call him. I'm an American, which means I was brought up with certain principles and beliefs. One of them is that we're all created equal, okay, by the Creator, and that we all have certain inalienable rights, just like it says in the Declaration of Independence. See, that's one of my holy books, the Declaration, okay? I don't think that it's right for Bibi to, in his ham-fisted way, put his face in American politics. Okay, we as Americans have no business contributing to a war that is killing children unjustifiably. I mean, I'm not a pacifist, and I believe when you're attacked, you have to fight back. But how much is enough? I mean, how many, was it, what, 34,000? And that's mostly women and babies that have been killed in Gaza. That's overkill, number one. Number two, people, they judge you by what you do and by what you say, all right? Some people say, oh, well, you got to judge a person by what he says. And then some people will say, well, you got to judge a person by what they do. Uh-uh. You have to judge a person by both. If somebody tells you something, take his word or her word, right? If they do something, well, then you know, hey, this son of a bitch can't be trusted. And this whole business about if you criticize Israel, that somehow you're anti Semitic, how can we have that in America? We extol our virtue as freedom of speech. That's supposed to be our main thing. Now, I ruined my career because I stood up against anti Semitism. Now, some years later, I look and I don't like what I see. The right wing has taken over in Israeli politics. I don't like the things that they're doing. Hey, I mean, okay, that's cool. Israel is a sovereign nation, right? But because of the fact that so much of what they're able to do is because of me, America, yeah, I got a right to comment. And I think that's something that Baby doesn't really. I I think the right wing they don't understand that. Okay, yeah, we're going to criticize. Has nothing to do with you being a Jew. It has to do with the fact that you are a sovereign nation. Uh, Basically, you take mucho, whether it be financial or whether we're talking about military hardware, which is something I know something about after 5 years as an intelligence type. So I know what you do. I know what you get from us, right? So for you to then turn around and say, hey, well, you criticize what I did, so you must hate my religion. That's not right. Uh, that does not help the conversation here in the United States. Now, on the other hand, these idiots that run around attacking Jews, where the hell do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are? This is America. We don't attack people for their religion, right? Now, I know it seems kind of funny that I say that because unfortunately, here in America, we have allowed these evangelical fundamentalists, or whatever they want to call themselves, we have really let them go too far. We have allowed them in our libraries. We have let them come into our homes. We have let them interfere in the relationships between, our significant others. Hopefully, we'll get this straight this election coming up. But this is America. We don't attack people for who they are or how they worship. So if you expect to get, to get the kind of help that you need, right? I would suggest that you start respecting American values. See, just like when I have been in your countries and I had to respect the values in Morocco, in Tunis, in Egypt, in Kenya, I had to respect the values that your country holds serious, that are important to you. And we have a right to demand the same type of respect. And one of that, like I said, one of those main rights is that you don't hurt people because they are different to you. And as usual, my time runs short. One thing I'll say as we close up here, and I would say this to all of my fellow countrymen, countrywomen, we have to stop being lazy. And when I say lazy, I'm talking about mentally lazy, right? We have to take an interest in the rest of the world. And we have to take an interest in what's going on in our own country. We have to do both because this is the 21st century and time is racing by. And you need to know what the hell is going on. Because Americans, knowing the difference between a dictatorship and a democracy, well, that's a very important thing to know. So, folks, until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace. This is Bob Gumbs, Concerning Forum. See you next week.